Cold Billionaire walked in on his maid singing. His reaction broke the internet. He was known for his silence. She was known by no one. But one voice, one song, and one moment behind a closed door would change everything. When the Cold Billionaire walked in on his maid singing, the world stopped to listen. And what he did next broke the internet. She never meant to be heard. It was supposed to be just another quiet morning in the mansion. Floors to polish, rooms to dust, silence to keep. But Malia had a habit she couldn't quite hide. When no one was around, she sang, softly, gently, like a secret meant only for herself, until one day he heard her. Elijah Grant, the man who built empires but forgot what warmth felt like. Cold, calculating, always in control, until that moment. He stood in the doorway, frozen, listening to the maid he barely noticed before, sing a song that somehow reached the parts of him even he thought were gone. She turned, startled. Their eyes met him, and for a second neither of them moved. No words, no orders, just silence wrapped around a melody that shouldn't have been heard, but someone else had. One clip, one upload. By morning, the world wasn't talking about business or technology anymore. They were talking about him and his maid. And what he did next would break the internet. It started with a sound, her voice, a soft hum echoing through marble halls, caught on camera when no one was supposed to be watching. A maid, standing by the grand piano, singing a song she'd written for her late mother. And behind her, the billionaire. The clip was less than a minute long. Elijah in a black suit, still as stone, eyes fixed on her like he'd forgotten how to breathe. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't scandalous. It was human. But the internet doesn't see humanity. It sees headlines. Within hours, the video spread across every platform. Cold CEO melts at his maid's voice. Who is the girl who stole the billionaire's heart? Twitter threads, gossip blogs, TikTok edits with piano music and fake love quotes. They turned her voice into a story, her face into content. Malia didn't even know it had happened, not until her old phone buzzed non-stop. At first, she thought it was spam. Then she saw the notifications, her name trending, her photo on thumbnails. Her trembling hands opened the video. And there she was, and singing, eyes closed, lost in the moment. And behind her, him. The world saw vulnerability. Ava, Elijah's glamorous ex-fiancée, saw opportunity. From her penthouse miles away, she watched the clip, a faint smirk curling her lips. She knew what came next. Because in her world, love wasn't the currency, power was. And she was about to spend it. The mansion was no longer quiet. Phones rang, cameras flashed at the gates, and whispers crawled through every marble hallway. But inside the study, the only sound was her shallow breathing. Malia sat at the edge of a chair, her hands trembling around the cracked phone that had ruined her peace. Every message was the same. Is it true? How did you meet him? Did you really sing for him? She wanted to scream, to deny it, but what was there to deny? The video didn't lie. She sang, he listened. And now the world was listening too. Elijah walked in, his voice low but sharp. Don't open the door. Don't answer anyone. She looked up, eyes wet but steady. I didn't mean for this to happen. I know, he said, pacing the room, phone in hand. But the internet doesn't care what we mean. It only cares what it sees. He had faced board meetings, lawsuits, market crashes, but never this. A storm born from a single melody. The press called it the billionaire's ballad. To him, it was something else, a moment he couldn't forget, no matter how hard he tried. Her voice had cracked something inside him, and that was the real problem. Outside, the paparazzi were gathering like vultures. Inside, the walls were closing in. They're saying I sang to get your attention, Malia whispered. That planned it? Elijah turned to her, his expression unreadable. They don't know you, and I won't let them destroy you. But as his phone buzzed again, calls from his PR team, his lawyer, the board, even she could see it. The weight of the world pressing against him, and she was the reason. For the first time, Malia wished she'd never opened her mouth to sing. Ava had always known how to play the game. She didn't need claws or chaos. She used precision, timing, and charm like weapons. And when she saw that clip of Elijah standing behind the maid, she smiled. Because scandals don't destroy men like him. Love does. Her call came that same night. A private number, a familiar voice on the other end. I've got something better than rumors, she purred. I've got the whole performance. She wasn't lying. Ava had a copy of the mansion's internal camera footage, the full video unedited. Malia standing by the piano, singing with her eyes closed, voice soft and honest. The kind of song that could only come from pain. Hours later, the headline dropped, "From Maid to Muse, the billionaire who fell for a voice." The article wasn't kind. They called Malia calculating, ambitious, the girl who sang her way into a billionaire's heart. By morning, she wasn't a person anymore. She was a headline. At the mansion, Elijah stared at the screen in silence. "She leaked it," he said quietly. His assistant hesitated. "Do you want us to release a statement?" He shook his head. "No, statements feed the fire." But for Malia, the fire was already burning. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters were outside. Strangers were digging through her past. She hadn't left her room all day. And when Elijah finally knocked, she didn't answer. "Malia," his voice was soft this time, almost pleading. "Please open the door." No sound came from the other side, only silence. Because she'd made a choice. She wasn't going to let him defend her. Not anymore. Later that night, Ava watched another interview on her big screen. Elijah, cold and composed, refusing to comment. It wasn't enough for her. She wanted to see him break. Because that was the difference between them. Ava wanted attention. Malia only ever wanted peace. And in Ava's world, peace was weakness. The Grant Tech boardroom had never felt colder. 12 executives, one long glass table, and Elijah Grant, the man they once called untouchable, sitting in silence at the head. On the screen behind him, the headline glared in bold, "The Maid and the Billionaire, a love song that cost millions." His company's stocks were falling, partnerships freezing, and his image, once spotless, now painted with gossip and shame. Mr. Haynes, the chairman, cleared his throat first. "Elijah, this situation has gone too far. We've tolerated your eccentric decisions before, but this," he gestured at the screen, "it's affecting the company. The investors are nervous." Another voice joined in. "We're not asking for much. Just distance. A statement, perhaps. Something to show you're in control." Elijah looked up slowly, his voice calm, too calm. "So you want me to deny her?" Silence. Mr. Haynes leaned forward. "We want you to choose. Your legacy. Or your distraction." The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the projector. Then Elijah stood, buttoned his jacket and walked to the front of the room. He stared at the screen, her picture, frozen mid-song, eyes closed, lost in melody. When he finally spoke, his tone was steady but full of weight. "My legacy was never built on comfort," he said quietly. "It was built on risk. On truth." He turned, meeting each man's gaze. "You call her a distraction. I call her the reason I remembered what peace sounds like." Murmurs rippled around the table. "If that costs me your approval," he continued, "then so be it." He pressed the remote. The screen went black. "I'd rather rebuild from ashes than succeed in silence." When he sat back down, the room was still. No one spoke. No one dared. That afternoon, Elijah walked out of the boardroom without a word to anyone. But by evening, the clip of his speech had leaked, and for the first time the world wasn't mocking him. It was listening. Days turned into weeks, then weeks into quiet months. The noise faded, the headlines shifted, and the world, as it always does, moved on. But for them, the silence wasn't empty. It was healing. Malia had left the mansion without a word, just a note on the kitchen counter that read, "Thank you for listening when no one else did." She moved into a small apartment above a bakery. It wasn't much. A single room, cracked walls, and a window that overlooked the city. But it was hers. For the first time, her mornings began with sunlight instead of orders. At night she sang again. Not for cameras, not for love, and just for herself. Her voice floated out the open window, soft and free like it had before the world found it. And slowly she began to rebuild, teaching children how to sing at a local center, saving small tips from cafe performances. Piece by piece, she was learning to live without shame. Across town, Elijah changed too. He no longer filled his days with meetings and markets. He stopped chasing headlines and started chasing quiet. The mansion grew smaller, fewer staff, fewer guests, more home, less museum. And every morning, before he left for work, he played one thing. That recording. Her song. It wasn't to remember the scandal. It was to remember what it felt like to feel. He wrote to her sometimes, letters he never sent. "I still hear you in every silence." The world moved on, But I didn't. Each one folded neatly and placed in a drawer. Each one ending with the same line, still waiting. Still yours. And though they were miles apart, both were learning the same lesson, that sometimes love isn't about holding on. It's about becoming someone worth returning to. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of day that began without meaning. Grey skies, light rain, a hum of traffic. Malia was at the small cafe where she worked part-time. The morning rush had just passed. She was wiping tables, humming quietly. Under her breath, the same song that once changed everything. The bell above the door chimed. She didn't look up at first. "Good morning," she called softly. "What can I get for you?" A voice answered. Deep, steady, familiar. "1 black coffee," he said. "And if you have it, a slice of banana bread." Her hands froze. That voice. She turned to me slowly. And there he was. Elijah Grant. No suit, no entourage, no cameras, just jeans, a plain shirt, and the same calm eyes that had once seen her when no one else did. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he smiled, faint, almost unsure. "You still sing," he said quietly. Malia swallowed, her heart pounding. "Only when no one's listening," he nodded, eyes softening. "Then I must be no one." A small laugh escaped her, fragile, real, almost forgotten. He glanced around the cafe at the quiet simplicity of her new life. "You found peace," he said. "I'm learning to," she replied. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded letter, edges worn, creased from being read too many times. "I wrote this months ago," he said. "I never sent it, but I kept it, just in case." He placed it on the counter. No expectations, no demands, just a quiet offering. "Thank you for the coffee," he murmured. And then, like he always did, he turned to leave. But this time she didn't let him go. "Elijah," she said softly. He paused, hand on the door. "Do you still listen to that song?" He turned, his eyes glinting with something between hope and fear. "Every morning." Her lips parted in a slow, trembling smile. "Then maybe stay a little longer." The cafe closed at 9. The rain had eased, but the street still glistened under the city lights. Malia flipped the sign on the door to closed, locked it, and turned around. Elijah was still there, sitting in the corner booth, untouched coffee in front of him, eyes steady but quiet. No words passed between them as she walked closer. Only the soft hum of the city outside, and the rhythm of two hearts trying to remember what calm felt like. "I haven't sung in front of anyone since that day," she whispered. "Then don't sing for them," he said gently. "Sing for you." She hesitated, then smiled, small, shy but real. From behind the counter she took out her small speaker, the one she used when she cleaned after hours. She pressed play. A soft instrumental began, the same song she sang in the mansion. Malia closed her eyes, and this time she sang again. Not like before, not to hide, not to prove anything, but to breathe. Her voice filled the empty cafe, warm and honest. Elijah watched, not as a man defending a scandal, but as someone who had finally learned to listen. When the song ended, silence lingered, heavy, sacred. She opened her eyes, met his gaze. "You waited," she said softly. "Always," he replied. She took a step closer. "And you listened." He smiled faintly. "It's all I ever wanted to do." They didn't need more words. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Outside rain began again, gentle, rhythmic, almost like applause, and there, between flickering lights and fading echoes, they stood. Two people who had lost everything to a song and found each other through its silence. Because sometimes love isn't about being heard. It's about finally being understood. And that's how it ended. Not with headlines, not with noise, but with one song, two hearts, and the quiet promise of peace. Elijah never stopped listening. Malia never stopped singing. And together they learned that sometimes the most powerful moments aren't the ones the world sees, but the ones that happen when no one is watching. So if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more love stories that remind us even the coldest hearts can be melted by the softest voice.